Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. Give everybody a few more minutes to get in. Welcome back. Welcome again if you're been here before. Welcome for the first time if it's your first time. Hello, hello, hello. I did. It's okay. All right, well, welcome everybody. So we go live on this page every Tuesday at 6 o'clock, where we always talk about all things real estate. And today we are going to focus specifically on some of the fees that are associated when you are purchasing real estate. I'm doing well, thank you for asking. So a lot of people are used to paying for putting their money together to have a down payment. And that's the one fee that everybody knows that they're going to have to come up with. So just in briefly talking about that, when it comes to your down payment on a home, depending on what type of loan you have and depending on whether or not you are going to have an investment property or you are going to have a primary residence will depend on how much your down payment is. But you can kind of keep in mind that your down payment is going to be anywhere between 5% and 20% of the cost of your property. So that's an upfront fee. When you make an offer on a home, you will most likely have to put down some type of earnest money. In this market, really the higher amount your earnest money, the better. Now, if you have some contingencies and a time period within the contract that you sign with the seller, you may be able to get that earnest money back. And that money will then go you'll get that money back should something go wrong with your inspection or something like that. But if everything goes smoothly along with your process, then that earnest money will just be included into your down payment. And sometimes you'll make a down payment, a huge down payment in the beginning, and you'll make another additional down payment later on just to show that you are serious, a serious buyer. So down payment, earnest money, that is what comes in the very beginning as far as fees are concerned. Other fees that you need to worry about. One is going to be your inspection, as I just mentioned to you. So your inspection is something that I always recommend, no matter if you're buying land or even if you're just purchasing a property that's sold as is, meaning that the seller doesn't plan on doing any work to the property. They're telling you if anything's wrong, it's coming out of your pocket. That's fine. You still want to know up front what's possibly wrong with the property. So it's actually the inspector's job to find things wrong with the property. So, by all means, pay for an inspection. The inspection, depending on the cost of the property, it could be anywhere from $300 and up. Two payments sometimes. I mean, you're gonna have your down payment, which would be included of the percentages of your actual loan, but then sometimes you'll do an additional down payment that will all be put into escrow. It's not like you're giving that to the seller, but it's just all showing that you are making strides and you're a serious buyer. It's not always necessary. That part of your down payment would also be within your earnest money. A lot of times your earnest money may only be a couple of $1,000s, but in this market, and usually you want to keep it low because you want to make it easy to get it back should something go wrong. But in this market, sometimes if you put a higher amount of earnest money in, then it shows that you're a serious buyer. And no matter what, if the inspection comes back or something like that, you're still going to be going forward with the deal. So again, that earnest money is just going to go towards all of your closing costs, and it could be put towards your actual down payment. So it's not like that's going straight to the seller. It's put into escrow, which means that usually your earnest money goes into escrow. Usually your real estate agent will collect that earnest money from you. They'll give it to their broker, and the broker has an earnest money account. So they can't it's illegal. They can't commingle the funds at all. Sometimes you can give the earnest money. You could put it in your contract that it's going to your lawyer. There's a lot of different options, but you definitely need to be able to show that you are putting in something. That's how the earnest money will work. All right, so again, you'll have your down payment, then you've got your inspection fees, and in addition to whatever you're paying the inspector to find things wrong with the property, it's an additional fee if you want to do like a pest search to search for termites or any other type of pest that you see. That's in addition to what you're paying the inspector. A lot of times the inspector doing the job can also look for pests, but you also may have to go through somebody else. It just depends on the type of inspector that you get. So just keep in mind that's another fee. I already mentioned to you the attorney. So an attorney is not necessary when you're going through the real estate process, but it is helpful to have an attorney. And in some states, it's actually required that you have a attorney. You really don't have a choice. I personally have never had one when I've gone through the whole process, but some people just feel a little bit more comfortable in having one. So, I don't want to talk you out of it, but it definitely doesn't hurt to have one. And so that's why I was mentioning sometimes in your contracts, you may say that your earnest money is going to go and sit with the attorney in their escrow account instead of like with your broker or with the seller's broker or something along those lines. So you've got, again, down payment, inspection fees, pest control fees, and your attorney fees. So those are the fees that we spoke about so far if you're just joining. The other fees that you should worry about would be homeowners insurance. So sometimes, that goes without saying that you should have homeowners insurance, but there are times, especially investors, when they'll feel as though that they don't necessarily need to have homeowners insurance. I don't know if my screen looks dark to you guys, but it looks a little dark to me for some reason. I don't know why it's dark. I'm gonna try and do the best that we can about that. Anyway, so homeowners insurance, you do want to make sure that you do have homeowners insurance. If you're an investor, even if you're just purchasing land, you want to make sure that you have that homeowners insurance. You never know what can go wrong. A fire could break out. Somebody could get hurt on your property. You just don't know. So you just want to have that insurance in place. I've known people in the past that have gone through investments and decided not to get insurance, and then the property burned down and they lost all of that money. So yeah, make sure that you get homeowners insurance. Hey, Noelle. All right, so the other fees, title insurance, title fees and title insurance. So when you are going through the whole process and you are going through, after you've bought it, found the property that you want, you've done the inspection and all of that, you are going to go through a title company. Now, normally the seller, at least in the areas in Philly and New Jersey where I specialize in those areas, the seller will choose the title insurance. As the buyer, you could recommend that you want to go through your own title, which is fine. Again, in this market, it may not be the best idea. You want to make things as easy as possible for the seller, but you could. Either way, both sides, both buyers and sellers are going to have to pay title fees. Part of you as the buyer, your title fees are going to be title insurance. And your title company is basically the one that's running title. They are making sure that that home that the seller is selling they are actually able to sell that home. They also are going to be checking for any liens or anything that might be from the past that you could be responsible for later. Also within those title fees are going to be your title insurance, and that will protect you should the title company, if they didn't see some type of lien, but somebody comes forward later on, like a contractor or something like that, that's saying that they're owed X, Y, and Z money, that title insurance will protect you as the buyer. So that's all included in your actual closing cost. And I forgot to mention, when it comes to inspectors, home insurance, and attorneys, a lot of times the real estate agent that you go through, they can recommend some people for you to go through. You definitely want to shop around for all of those people, inspectors. You want to get referrals. That's always important. You should ask for referrals from them, attorneys as well. But a lot of times your real estate agent may have at least 3 in mind. You can call 3 and decide, what works best for you. So that's as far as those are concerned. But with title, that's usually going to come from the seller. But if you have a title company that you've worked with in the past that you feel comfortable with, as a buyer, you possibly could use them as well. All right. So title fees, again, that's going to cover your title insurance, and your the title company is going to run a background on the actual property and make sure that the owner is able to, the seller that's selling the property is actually able to do so. It's in their name and not in their grandmother's name or something like that, and they don't have rights to do that. This is also when a survey may come into play. A survey is when you have to figure out if you're buying a house, you are trying to figure out what land would be yours if you were to purchase that house. So what would be included in your backyard? This is where sometimes when you order the survey, you may find out that the neighbor's shed is on your property, and the original seller may not have even realized that to begin with, because they weren't keeping, they didn't really pay attention to it, and they may have had the property for a while. A lot of times when it's a new property, or even sometimes if you pay attention to older properties, you'll see little stakes in the ground with markings on them. Those are where a survey was actually conducted, and it's marked throughout the property. So if the seller has a current survey, you can always use that and save a little bit of money. But if it's an older home, a lot of times title and also your loan company, they are going to want to order an actual a current survey to make sure that you still have access to the land that you have. Also, if you have some type of easement or something like that, if somebody's sharing a driveway, all of that would come through on a survey. So survey fees that would come in from title, that will be included in your title costs, but that's a fee that you want to kind of keep in mind. Another fee that will come up, of course, are going to be your loan fees. Now, it will really depend, of course, on who you go through for your loan and how many points they actually charge you for your loan. So this is why it's so important to shop around when it comes to purchasing, actually getting a loan, because it will depend on the points. And this is where you have to be really careful with these loan officers, because some of them will really charge a lot in points. So do your research with that. Even, again, your real estate agent could possibly recommend some loan officers for you. We talked about pre-approvals. Was it last week? I think it was. My weeks are already running together, but we talked about pre-approval. So you could always go through who you went through for your pre-approval for your loan, and they will tell you, they should have told you then what your possible fees would be. But if you weren't happy with them, or you want to try somebody else, or somebody else said they have a better program for you, then you should go ahead and do that as well. And then the last thing that you should keep in mind would be your taxes. Now, taxes are usually going to be paid by both the buyer and the seller, but this is depending on where you live. This is where a big chunk of your closing costs comes into play, and a lot of people are not prepared for this. If you live like where I live in Rockland County, taxes are extremely high here in the suburbs. In certain cases, we're talking about double digits as far as taxes are concerned. In New Jersey, where I'm licensed, in different parts of New Jersey, the taxes are going to be similar. In Philadelphia, though, however, the taxes are pretty low. On the investment properties that I have right now, I only pay a couple $100s a year in taxes. That's unheard of in New York and New Jersey, in any part of New York or New Jersey, but in Philadelphia, it's very possible. But the way that works when it comes to your closing costs is that if a seller, usually, you pay those taxes once a year. Property taxes, school taxes as well. County taxes, that's also part of that. But you'll pay those once a year. And what will happen is at the closing, if this, depending on what part of the year that you actually are closing, the seller will have to pay the taxes for up until that point. So if you're closing in March, end of March, the seller will have to pay taxes for January, February, March. And then you as a buyer will have to basically pay for the rest of the year. Now your taxes as well as insurance could be part of your monthly payment, which would go into an escrow account with your mortgage company that you go through. But you still, in that first year, you're going to be paying that up front because they need to have kind of a balance. They're not going to wait for you to the end to hope that they can scrounge together your coin. They want to have that coin up front. So you'll be paying that up front. So you want to make sure ahead of time when you are purchasing your home that you include the taxes of that area into your monthly payments. Even if you decide that you don't want to do escrow and you want to pay the taxes and insurance up front, you still will have to do that in closing. It just will be a difference on whether it's going to go into escrow or you will pay that directly to your county or whoever. Okay, but those are all the fees. There may be a few other little fees that will come up as you go through the process. Some little things that may come up, but those are really the main fees. What taxes are to be paid, I just saw that, and I saw some other questions, I'll go back, but the taxes are usually going to be your property taxes and school tax, and also if, like I live here in Rockland County, it's a county tax. That's the cheaper tax. Our most expensive taxes are our property taxes and the school tax. Those are the most expensive here. But the school district is also very good over here, so you got to pay for that, unfortunately. All right, let me just scroll back. Okay, I just see this. I answered the other question, but the other question, how does this first-time buyer work? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Noelle, if you're talking about the first-time buyer program or if you're talking about as a first-time buyer when it comes to fees. But as far as fees, it doesn't matter if you're a first-time buyer or not. You're going to have fees, so you have to just keep all of that in mind as you're going through the process, I mean. But if anybody has any other questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. Noelle, if you're still here, go ahead and just give me some clarification on that. How is everybody? I see I have a few new people in here that I haven't seen in the past. I'm just giving you all a wave. Okay, yeah, the program. Okay, so there's a lot of different first-time homebuyer programs that are out there, and you should check with your agent as to see if they know of any in your area. You may also be able to apply through things on your own. There may be some grants that you may be eligible for depending on the area that you are purchasing in. Your realtor may not know about all the programs that are out there, so you should do a little bit of your research. NACA is a government program that's out there. It is very detailed, and they're basically helping you through the process. It kind of takes a little bit of time to actually purchase when you're going through that process of NACA, but that is one of the governmental programs that are offered to help you with down payment assistance. But the part of that is that they're educating as you're going through the process. So they feel, if they educate you along the way, then of course you have a better chance of not defaulting on your loan. So therefore they're willing to kind of give you some assistance to help you with your down payment. They also, of course, want to encourage home ownership. So, that is part of how that program works. But it is a process. You just you could Google and kind of go through all the different steps. But it is a process. It does take a little bit of time. Not every seller is going to be willing to accept something like that because it does, sometimes it may prolong the sale. So it just depends, but it doesn't hurt to go through the process and see if it will be feasible for you. I had a consultation today though, you know, if you don't want to rely on a program, sometimes you just might need to get a second hustle. You know, do what you can do to kind of get that down payment together, but keeping in mind that that down payment is not all that you're going to need. Now, a lot of times when you go through, it's a separate topic, but a lot of times when you go through your personal banks, like your Wells Fargos, your Chases, and things like that, when they give you a pre-approval, they're looking at the overall package for you anyway, and they may tell you right then and there that you don't have enough money saved up to purchase a home, and therefore they probably, you know, may not be willing to give you a pre-approval or a loan for that matter. So, you know, instead of going through a down payment assistance program, you can actually just do something like that, and they'll already tell you, you know, listen, you are not ready just yet, because there are so many other fees besides your down payment that you have to keep in mind. So that's why banks ahead of time may be like, you know, listen, it's you're not ready just yet. All right, anybody else have any other questions? I did want to let you all know that I do have a free home buyer's guide that I put together. It's in my bio. So that's what Mike was referring to earlier about how I laughed at him. But yeah, I do have a free home buyer's ebook that I put together for you guys. You can download that. It takes you through the different steps of the home buying process, from your pre-approval through, you know, finding your realtor, what questions that you should be asking your realtor, and things like that. If you're a new home buyer, either as if you're looking to be an investor, or you're looking for your dream home or your first primary residence as a home, you should definitely download it, and hopefully it'll help you along the way. I even have a little section in there for you to write notes and stuff as you go. So, you know, feel free to download that. It is totally free and just meant to help you out as you're going through the home buying process. All right, if nobody else has any questions, I am going to end for today. But if you have any questions, you can always, I'll put this replay on my page. You can always ask me some questions there. You can send me a DM. If there's something specific that you want me to talk about in the next live, because we go live every Tuesday at 6 o'clock. So if there's something specific that you want me to go over, let me know, send me a DM, and I'd be more than happy to help you. I don't know what I'm going to talk about yet next week. Sometimes things come up throughout the week, and that's what gives me the inspiration as to what I'm going to talk about. So, you know, if you have other questions, send me a DM, and then that may be my topic for next week. But other than that, you all enjoy your evening, and I will see you all next Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining. To the new people, I hope you learned something, and hopefully you'll come back next week. All right, take care, everyone.